It's not just radio, it's Rockland World Radio. RocklandWorldRadio.com.
Welcome to Sober University, your next step to successful recovery, with Cheryl Adler, who says if you are going to crave anything, crave living life to the fullest. Maximize all you have and squander nothing. This program provides information to help you get your physical, mental, and spiritual house in order. And now, the host of Sober University, Cheryl Adler.
Good evening. How are my Rockland World Radio listeners of Sober University tonight? I'm very happy to be here, and I'd like to invite you to join me in the chat room, which is live, by calling in to rocklandworldradio.com. That's where you can log in, or you can call in with questions at 845-353-2910. Tonight's show is sponsored by me, Cheryl Adler, and my book, Your Next Step to Successful Recovery, which you can purchase at any online bookseller. And if you are local, please come to Pickwick Bookshop on North Broadway, actually South Broadway. I stand corrected, South Broadway, and ask for Jack, who will then bring my book to you. Please learn more about me on my website, soberuniversity.com, or you can call me with any questions of your own at my private office, 845-358-4652. Tonight's show is very exciting to me, as I hope it will be for you. Tonight's show has a theme that I think we can all relate to, and it's growth. It's all about our growth. And our growth, as we all know, starts with a single seed, be it an intention for self-improvement, for health, for wealth, for healthy, dynamic, vital relationships, building a successful career, love, joy, humor, building and growing. So that's the theme for tonight. And there is something about growing that's magical, and that is growing your own garden. This is an experience that I sadly missed in my life, but I am fascinated by it, and I'm so fascinated that I asked somebody who is a master gardener, who is an expert at gardening, who's going to share her passion, joy, and enthusiasm with you, in the hopes that it will enhance and enrich your own sober life so that you too will grow a garden, whether it's on a large plot of land or even in a tiny little pot. So I'd like to welcome a very dear friend and a remarkable person who's very gifted at gardening, and this is Mary Lukens. Take it away, Mary.
What an introduction.
Sorry, it was very long, Mary.
No. Well, I am a master gardener here in our county, Rockland County, here in New York.
Yes.
And that means we go out and preach to the public. We teach, we educate, we help people with all kinds of gardening problems, issues, and developing. So it could be a garden with vegetables or fruit, or it could be a cactus garden indoors. You know, what we do is we really educate the public, whether it's a student at elementary school, we build gardens.
Isn't that beautiful?
Yeah, we work with all kinds of ages.
Uh-huh.
So that's what the program, every county has in the United States, there's a land grant university in every county has a garden, has a master gardener program. So whether you want to join the program, sure, or if you want to ask a question. Uh-huh. So when I give advice or look up advice, even on the internet, as it pertains to any kind of gardening question, whether it's a simple, my plant is diseased, or how do I get more yield, I usually go to any kind of website that has edu. .edu, which is an academic institution, and if I just find like I get the best advice, of course, because it's mostly researched and it's trusted.
Absolutely.
So rather than going to Jimmy's blog, on gardening, I feel like you get the best information.
It's really getting the information from the experts.
Exactly.
I would really like to for a few minutes at least, talk about how growing one's garden could really enrich someone's sober lifestyle from the perspective of how you feel when you're gardening. What does it actually do to you as the gardener who has this wonderful capacity to make life, to grow?
Well, I can speak for myself just because I know how
Yes.
it makes me feel, and I, like anybody who enjoys whatever hobby,
Yes.
the more you put in, the more you get out. And when it comes to gardening, which is my hobby, I have, I guess, the desire to nurture. And gardening is something that is essentially, you're nurturing, but you're also growing and learning, and you're getting back. So how it makes me feel, I just feel like the moments that I'm in the garden, they go so fast. If I'm in a bad mood or if I have a bad day, I go in the garden, I lose myself.
Oh, how
I
wonderful.
really do.
So you
I
can
garden on the
de-stress.
Hudson, definitely. I have a little plot on the Hudson River in a community garden. It's magic. The sky, the night, the light, just the gardening, it is a magical feeling. So for me, it is transformative. It's somewhat meditative. It's calming. It's always calming. There's never any stress. Never.
So this
Never.
is a perfect way to have many different results. You can start out feeling kind of miserable because you have concerns or stress, and you take yourself to your garden.
And then you weed, because weeding will
weed. Talk about
That's-
weeding.
Well,
yeah.
weeding is not something that a gardener loves to do, nor digging a hole and finding a rock. That takes you 20 minutes to unearth. But you know what? At the end of the day, you take that huge rock out and you have a bigger, better hole in the ground so you can plant it. So there's always a silver lining. But
That's a
in terms
beautiful
of-
metaphor, though, that we have to weed out the things in our life
to make room.
that don't belong and make room for better.
Yes, very true. But back to the weeding part, yes, not everybody likes to weed, but you know what? You also lose yourself in just the mindless task of weeding.
Yes.
Certain things in the garden are repetitive, whether it's weeding or watering. It's not like the designing and plotting. And for here we're talking about whether it's a vegetable garden or growing perennials or a water garden, a blueberry garden, or whatever. There's all different types of gardening. Some people don't have plots, don't have any garden beds. We teach them how to grow in containers. So they still want a tomato. They live in an apartment. You can still have your homegrown tomatoes.
So tell us a little about that. We were talking before we got here that someday we're going to have skyscrapers that are just going to be completely filled with...
I don't know, but well, maybe. We are running out of land, unfortunately, but there are research, there's many projects being done in terms of hydroponics. So you can grow in less land or no land, growing in water. It's
quite
using
remarkable.
Fish and, yes, fertilizers. But eventually, I think a lot of the skyscrapers will be our food supply source. We're starting to look at that. Even in, I think it's Chicago Airport, there are lettuces being grown hydroponically in a restaurant. So you can wait for your plane or pick your own salad while you have...
That's quite remarkable.
It is amazing.
It's really remarkable.
Yeah,
So tell us a little bit about somebody like myself who looks at somebody like you and says, wow, how do you do that? It is magical to me because I don't have a green thumb at all. And I'm wondering if some of the people who listen tonight may share my cluelessness and yet my appreciation.
It's like me asking you how to knit. How do you begin to create that huge piece of beautiful art? I don't know. You know what? It's like anything else. First of all, what kind of garden are we talking about? If somebody listening wants to start a vegetable garden, a perennial garden, do your research. I would first say, look at the space. Look at what you want to grow, how you want to grow it, how you use your space. Look at the sun. Look at your water supply. There's a lot of variables to look at. Then begin your research. So if you say, well, I eat a lot of blueberries. I don't want to spend $5 anymore. I'm going to plant 14 blueberry bushes. That fulfills your need. I'm just hypothetically throwing that out there. Now, it depends on what zone you are. If everybody is in our listening audience in Rockland County, that's zone 7B or 7A, depends on what part of the county you live on. And you can go to the USDA websites and plug in your zip code. You can go, I would advocate going to your local cooperative extension in your county.
Let's talk about that. Yeah.
It's free information. They're land grant institutes. They're federally or locally funded, and you will get all the information you need. Here in Rockland County, we have a wonderful one, the Cornell Cooperative Extension. They're right here in Stony Point. They have a walk-in diagnostic lab. You can bring anything, whether it's a diseased piece, a leaf, or an evergreen.
How remarkable.
A bug, a tick. They will look at it under a microscope. There's 2 wonderful ladies there. They've been there 20 years, and you will come back with an answer. If not, they'll find you one. You can have your soil tested, analyzed.
It's remarkable.
So back to the question, I would say start with your local cooperative extension. They will get you the information. It's not on their website, perhaps. They have handouts, and you can certainly ask them questions, have beginning questions. They might even have a class that you can sit in, take a class, whether it's vegetable growing or perennials or landscaping.
There's
all kinds
so
of
many
lessons.
different things a person can do.
Sure,
So
yeah.
it's simple, but really not so simple.
Well,
There's
you
a
know,
lot
it's-
to know.
There is a lot to know.
Yeah.
Gardening is a science as much as an art, I'd like to say. There's an artist, creative, design element. At the same time, you learn and you grow, literally. You learn so much every year. I like to say a garden is only going to be better the next year because you will learn. You learn how to control things like soil and temperature, water, and all kinds of what you plant next to each other. There's companion plants. Things work together. Some things
So
don't.
you have to have a lot of awareness to do this. You have to be able to plan and be very patient. It teaches you some very important skills as a person about being patient.
Patient, yes. Mathematical skills.
Mathematical
right,
skills.
yes. Creative design skills. Yeah, patience helps.
Yeah,
It
well,
does.
you were talking about how exciting it becomes for you when you take something
seed.
as minuscule as a seed, and each day you can't wait to go out to the
Right.
garden to see what has become of this little seedling.
It is amazing when you think how small the seeds are. And I think one of the smallest seeds is either a poppy or thyme, which poppy seeds are a speck, small poppy flower. If
Yes.
you've seen like the poppy seeds on your bagel, it's like one fraction of that. That's how small. But to see any kind of small seed grow into a plant, it's a magic. It's a work of art. It's a miracle.
It is a miracle.
But it is nice
yeah.
to watch. I like, many people don't guard. Some gardeners do keep journals and logs, so you can get an idea of what you plant when, and you have a better sense of how things grow with the forces around you. And that's what we were talking about, the biodynamics, the gardening of biodynamic principles.
Yeah, let's
which
talk
is,
about that.
I don't know enough about it. It is a science. It's based on Rudolf Steiner, who was a scientist and astronomer, but back in the 20s, and they found a way, and it probably had some essence from the Native Americans who were gardening with lunar phases and certainly the moon.
Right.
So basically, if you use the principles of astronomy with science, you get a better yield. You get certainly better crops in terms of sizes and taste and nutritional value. And the Steiner biodynamics really focuses on what to plant when. So your crop, basically, you have root crops and then flowering crops, things that grow below the ground and above the ground. So if you're planting a carrot, you want to plant that on a waning moon cycle. If you're planting above the ground, like a tomato or herbs, you want to plant in a waxing moon cycle. So I don't know enough about it, but essentially the principles are there, and there is a lot of validity to the science.
I remember many years ago, a friend asked me to plant during a full moon. And I thought it was the most amazing thing that we were standing in the yard under the full moon, which was so bright. And
Was it a fall planting? Do you remember if it was August? Or?
I think it was August. I think it was,
Okay.
because I remember it was still warm out. And I just thought, this is so thrilling. We're in the moonlight when we're planting. And it just seemed like...
It has a lot to do with the gravitational pull. So, again, I don't know enough about it, but it really is all the cosmic elements coming to play. So that's where that biodynamic principles come in. And right here in Rockland, we have Cropsey Farm.
Oh,
which
tell
is
us about
now,
that.
Yeah.
And where is Cropsey Farm?
Cropsey Farm is up in New City, from
Up
here a little bit
yonder?
north, right. This is the second year for Cropsey Farm. It is a CSA, a community supported agriculture. So this is the second season.
So sort of like being on a kibbutz.
Kind of, yes. You do get to you have a working share. You get to plow the land, help the land, wash the vegetables, harvest, do all kinds of things.
It's remarkable.
And it's called like a working share. If you don't want to do any of that, you can stuff envelopes, or you could, registration. There's a lot of things you can do. But essentially what you're doing is in the fall, or September, October, you're becoming a member, paid member to a CSA, and you essentially give money to the farmer, and the farmer then from there can plan how many crops to plant, how to buy seed and fertilizer and everything that they need to get planted, to get ready for spring planting or fall planting, if that's the case, for their X amount of members. And that's what a CSA is. And besides that, it's fun, it's communal, you're learning, you're on the farm, you can help or not help. Every CSA is run different, but essentially you're meeting your farmer, you know where your food comes from, and it's as local gets.
That is as local as it gets. So when we go to the farmer's market, this is really what we're purchasing. We're reaping the benefits of this great produce that comes from a place like Cropsey Farm.
Exactly. Yes.
Okay, and so here in Rockland, we have many members who are participating in this program?
Yes. Their Rockland Farm Alliance is the overall group, and the Cropsey Farm is their first endeavor in bringing more farming back to Rockland here. At one time in 1900 or 1920, there were over 900 farms in the county. And then, of course, with suburban sprawl and the bridge and the parkway and everything that changed in the 50s, we're down to 20. So we're trying to have our food become more local. So yes, the local farmers markets, essentially the markets that we have here in the county and Long Island, any of the tri-state area, bring in local farm fresh products, usually within 50 miles radius.
It's pretty
So
fantastic.
yes.
I'm salivating.
I know, me too.
I would like to know, I'm sure there are people who are listening who would be very interested to know about organic farming. And, how does a person venture into becoming organic?
You know what? That's an area I don't know a lot about. I just know a few things in that my own process of what I grow. I try to use seeds that are grown, that are, non-genetically engineered, of course, but seeds that I harvest or that I know locally that they were made genetically, not genetically treated. As far as the composts, well, each plot of land, I belong to another organization, a community garden. So
great.
What we do is we do not supply our members. We do supply our members with soil, but essentially our members treat their own.
They bring their
beds.
own.
They bring their own in. Like I have my own compost. I'll bring my own fertilizers. I only use anything that's OMRI certified. So if anyone's listening and they want to make sure that their fertilizers are safe, Organic Material Review Institute, OMRI.
They can see that online,
yes,
correct?
on logo. But yeah, that logo would be on any package. So I think it's essential if you want to keep it organic and keep it safe.
So if people want to begin, can they go to a local gardening shop to get these
materials?
Basic supplies?
Yes, or online. There's so many resources online. It depends how small you want to start, how big. If you want to turn your whole front yard, which is a lawn, into a vegetable, which I love. Any lawns I'd love to see become more vegetable gardens.
Wouldn't
and
that
plots.
be amazing if we could all transform our lawns into vegetable and fruit gardens?
Well,
right?
we'd put a lot of landscaping industry people out of business. I don't advocate that, but I am not one for using pesticides to treat our lawns that run off into our water supply system.
Right.
And I think we all have to be more careful about
and
that.
more aware. I think
of
we
course,
want to really
people
be
don't. They
aware.
want a beautiful lawn, but at what risk?
price?
Exactly.
Yes,
Of
absolutely.
course.
And wouldn't it be nice to just go outside and pick your ear of corn or your tomatoes and your lettuce and
Right.
create
Or
your
even
make
your
your
own
own
herbs.
salad?
Exactly. Or maybe you just
Yes.
want your own herbs. You can start
Yes.
a small pot of basil and a tomato from the farmer's market and fresh mozzarella
And a
you
little,
have a little
mint,
salad.
basil, yeah.
Mint. If you have full sun, you can grow any kind of herb. They love full sun, and the animals don't eat them, which is wonderful.
Yes, that was another question I was going to ask you. How do you protect all the efforts that you have put into the garden from the
Fencing.
fencing? Okay.
Yes, that's the biggest question we get when we the master gardeners are out in a library or out somewhere. How do you get the deer, the woodchucks, whatever, to stay away.
Right.
Every animal, there's a lot of different ways. The best way is fencing. A fence 4 feet high will not keep a deer out. A deer can run.
Leap, yes.
Leap, right. A woodchuck will climb a fence. So there's different size fencing. There's chicken wire. There's all kinds of methods. So
plenty
you
to
really
choose
have to
from.
know who you are protecting against. If you have a shed 5 feet away, you know you're going to have a woodchuck in your garden because he doesn't have too far to travel.
That's right. That's
And
right.
the woodchucks will eat just about anything. In March, I planted peas, arugula, broccoli, lettuce, spinach, chard, and within 2 days it was all gone.
Oh my.
So I had to go to Plan B. But
What was
That
Plan
was-
B?
yeah.
Do you start over? Do you
yeah,
just-
I replanted and I covered and
and made it safe.
all the holes. Yes, all the
Yes.
holes of where I thought they were coming in from.
Yes.
So
So
that's true.
one of the things I had asked you earlier that still is on my mind is a person can make this great commitment to growing a garden and see the wonderful benefits, and they can share the beautiful produce with their friends and family, and perhaps even offer it to the hungry, to soup kitchens, which I really recommend our listeners to do.
Well, if it's a good, go ahead.
No, you go.
No, if it's a good year and you have a surplus or
Yes.
anything, a lot of times you just can't use it all.
Right.
There is an organization. It started in Alaska back in the 70s. It's called Plant a Row for the Hungry. Essentially, what Plant a Row for the Hungry is connecting people like you or me with backyard gardens with too much produce to the needy.
Wonderful.
And that could be down the street to the Soup Angels here in Nyack,
Yes.
or your local church basement that has, Saturday morning food distribution if they have a pantry. So essentially, Plant a Row for the Hungry does that on a national level. So here in Rockland, we have a committee of people that put together connecting the backyard growers with the soup kitchens, essentially, who have need, and they all have need. So
That's such
that
a
answers
worthy
your question.
cause.
It is,
It
because
does.
everybody deserves fresh,
Absolutely.
organic or just fresh produce.
Because also part of our sobriety is to eat well, and so the other part of the gratification of growing your own garden is that it can help you become
Right.
healthy from a nutritional standpoint as well as a spiritual standpoint.
I totally agree, and I think this administration, the Obamas, have started that with their own. The People's Garden in the White House garden has sort of changed the whole food thinking and the movement in the schools, so the school programs. So slowly, here in Rockland, there's a lot of school gardens, and they
Yes.
were in existence. And then the Master Gardener program certainly helped out with the school garden network. So you see that happening all throughout the country.
It's a beautiful thing to see all those
Once a kid-
gardens
yes.
sprouting up. So that was part B of my question is you get to the end of the gardening season, and it's sort of like how I feel when football season is over. It's like, oh, I've rooted for the Giants all this time. They won again, and now I'm
now
a
what?
little bit let down. Of course, I'm pretty lucky because I have so many other interests. But what does a gardener do at that point when they can't be in the soil anymore? What do they do?
It's not that you can't be in the soil. First of all, I plant garlic. Most people, you plant garlic in the fall. So I'm planting in November my garlic.
How
you can use
fabulous.
cold frames. I have friends who, I haven't mastered the cold frame, but if you have enough sun, which you do without the foliage in the winter, and you have the right cold frame, you can grow lettuce, chard, a lot of your greens throughout the whole season into
So you
the
just
spring.
taught me something. You've given me
Yes.
hope.
So this is here in New York area. So it's not. You can still do that. A lot of the farmers, sometimes you go to a farmer's market
In November?
In November, which they usually have the winter crops,
Yeah.
Crops that come in. But
Well, we have the
also
squash.
they have hoop houses. You
What
have
is
squash.
that?
A hoop house is sort of like a huge greenhouse. So they're growing before, like weeks before. It's a microclimate, so you're going to get earlier corn or tomatoes. But so back to what we all do. For people who are gardeners, perennial gardens and flower gardens, you're looking at catalogs, you're planning, you're moving, you're thinking, I'm going to relocate that shrub, or I'm not going to plant this where it was last year because the trees leafed out. So now I need to move this. There's always ways of rethinking to make better.
So you can look forward to the next season.
Always look
and that's
forward,
where the
yes.
journal comes in. because you've kept notes on everything that you've done, so you can do it even better for the next season.
Exactly. A garden only gets better each year. When I was doing my research on the end of my Master Gardener when I graduated, everybody has to give a presentation to graduate, and I selected how to start a community garden. So in my research, I learned that George Harrison, if he wasn't a musician, he would have been a gardener.
Are you kidding?
Yes, isn't that fascinating?
I love George Harrison.
Yes. And there's a quote from him that says that. Yeah, he's amazing, and when you think about Here Comes the Sun and some of his songs, and yeah, he was a gardener. So in terms of planning, you're always planning. In January, the catalogs start coming in, and you can't wait to get through them. And you think about can we do better. My husband and I just decided this winter, as a matter of fact, we have almost a flat roof. We're growing on our roof this year. We're growing in pods.
What are you growing?
We're growing tomatoes, eggplant, peppers, basil, because
so Dan
we don't have enough room. Yes,
Dan is on board with
6
all
a.m.
this.
and 6 p.m. He's watering. Yes. And we picked our first 2 sun gold yesterday. So sun gold is a small patio tomato. Yeah. So in answer to your question, you're always planning. You're always thinking how to get better. Looking at catalogs, seeds, seed exchange. There's free online resources. There's so much out there.
Are there any particular resources that you can think of just offhand?
No, I just wrote a few websites down.
Okay.
If anyone is listening and they wanted to find out if there is a cooperative extension in their area to get more information, the USDA.gov is the overall Department of Agriculture website, and you can find any cooperative extension on a map there.
Okay.
Same thing with the Farmers Market, farmersmarket.com.
That sounds like a very good one.
Just Food in New York. Local Harvest is another great website.
Local Harvest. Okay, so this is where people can be inspired and motivated and enhance their sobriety through this wonderful passion.
It's very therapeutic.
Which you have. I feel like I just want to go out and...
Gardeners always want to share, I have to tell you
that. I see that.
We
I'm coming to your
learn,
garden.
we always want to share. We have garden hops and tours. I was at one last night.
All right, so I have to make a plan with you.
We share everything.
Oh, wonderful.
And we know the best dirt. I had to throw that in.
That's a fantastic place for us to conclude, is that Mary has the best dirt.
Not really.
I love it. Well, actually, before we end, I also wanted to encourage people who want some inspiration for gardening. There are such amazing places like the Botanical Gardens in the Bronx?
Yeah. New York Botanical Gardens.
In fact, the editor of my book is a gardener herself, and she studied there and spoke very highly of it.
Sure.
And I enjoyed some wonderful times there when my dad was alive. We would go and wander around there for hours on end, and
it's always changing.
It's always changing, and no matter when you're there, whatever season, it just embraces you with.
Brooklyn Botanical, Queens Botanical, they're all beautiful, and they're always changing. That's what I would do when I was a kid sometimes. I would take my bicycle to Queens Botanical Garden and just learn and watch.
So that was a place of inspiration for you.
Yeah.
Fantastic.
Parks.
Beautiful. Mary, do you have any other thoughts you'd like to share before we wrap up the show?
Get out there and dig. Find your passion, whether it's growing crops or growing the best geranium or hydrangea or herb or cactus indoors. Just find it. There's so much to learn about gardening. There's so many resources out there, free.
Get in the dirt, dig,
yes.
Feel the earth, smell the earth, be in the earth.
And get composting.
Totally
composting, whether it's indoor, outdoor. You can do composting with worms, vermicomposting, which is a whole another half an hour.
Okay, well, maybe we'll talk about worms next time.
People are doing it right in their own apartment in the city. Yeah.
See, that is another really important point that some people who are listening may be saying, I don't have a backyard or I don't have land, so, what do I do? But here you've told us about a roof, hydroponics, something on your deck or a little pot
They could
on your
live in an
porch.
apartment, but in a beautiful complex that has a lawn, and they're paying a landscaper, $800 a month to beautify, the lawn or what. I would talk to my super. I would talk to the owner, and I would just say, I would like a little patch
I want my
you
piece
know,
of
and-
land.
Right, but what I'm saying is, there's if you have sun and a water source, you can
You've got
go
it
anywhere.
all. You can
Whether
make
it's a
it happen.
rooftop, there's farms growing up on rooftops in Brooklyn.
Beautiful. That's good.
Yeah, it is.
I'm so happy that you came to share this time with us
Thank you.
tonight, Mary.
Thank
it's a
you
wonderful.
so much. Great opportunity.
No, thank you. It's wonderful to talk about growth, and growing a garden is
transcendent.
it's transcendent. It's a beautiful metaphor for what can go on within you as you create something, such as growing a garden.
If you talk to any gardener, they would tell you the same thing. You know, otherwise, they wouldn't keep doing it. It's like any hobby. Like, don't you find knitting
Yes, it's
meditative?
it's,
Right?
it's
I know that's one of
compelling.
your- it is.
It's a
yeah.
compelling thing to do, and it's a form of creation. So you just can't help yourself, right?
No, and you want to keep learning.
And you want to keep learning,
And it keeps you active.
It keeps you active. So stay active and keep growing, everybody. Okay, on that note, I want to thank you again, Mary. And I want to thank my listeners for being with us tonight. And your enthusiasm is completely contagious. That is, sadly, all the time we have for now. Did it fly by? It did.
Totally.
Did it feel like 3 seconds?
5 minutes.
Yeah, I told you it was going to go quick. Okay, so please join us here. This is my home away from home. You can listen to some wonderful programming at rocklandworldradio.com. And I hope that you will listen to my show every Tuesday night at 8 o'clock and so many other shows which you can find on our homepage. Please meet me back here next Tuesday night at 8 o'clock when Rabbi Reuben Modek of Nyack, New York, will talk with me about the Kabbalah of sobriety. Rabbi Modek is a compelling speaker who has a heartfelt spirit and a vast amount of knowledge. Remember, if you're going to crave anything, crave living life to its fullest. Maximize all you have and squander nothing. Thanks again. Good night.
It's not just radio, it's Rockland World Radio. RocklandWorldradio.com.